Good morning, everybody. It's Lorraine from pregnancyexercise.co.nz. Welcome to episode 6 in our lockdown series. Today we are talking about returning to running, high intensity interval training, high impact exercise postnatal. So how to safely return to that type of exercise, what we need to look out for. We're going to include exercise, nutrition, pelvic floor, talk a little bit about diastasis recti. We're also going to discuss prolapse. I've had a couple of questions in already that we need to answer in this event. So please let me know your goals. Let me know if you've started running. We also need to look at injury risk also. So as you're coming on, let me know how many weeks postpartum are, what your goals are in terms of your exercise. Remember, everybody, please, who's watching this, give it the thumbs up so everybody can start to share and see this event series. And of course, you're welcome to share with your friends and family. Okay, so wanting to run postpartum. What do we need to look at first? And what are the factors? And when is the safe time to start running again postnatal? And this is all based on the training that I've done with women, over the past 20 years. I've been, a New Zealand triathlon coach, and I've coached many athletes and rebuild their training up, and what I've learned through the years of being a high performance coach. I've put into all the training programs that you see, what I put out there to our clients and what's included in the Birth to Fit Mum program. All right, so what are the factors, what we need to think about first? First of all, we need to think about the exercise that we managed to do during our pregnancy. Were you able to enjoy running through your pregnancy? And at what stage did you stop? Okay, because that's a big factor in the time off what we had. So with my first pregnancy, I actually ran up to 35 weeks. Second pregnancy, I think I ran till about 20 weeks. Third pregnancy, I don't even think I managed to run at all. So it's all very different, okay? And in terms of what we can manage through our pregnancy. We also then need to think about, did we have any pain during our pregnancy? How were our hips? How were our pelvic floor muscles? Okay, so that's just one factor. Then we need to look at the type of birth, what we had. That's a big factor in, again, in the recovery. So how long we pushed. Did we have a vaginal delivery with no interventions? Did we have a vaginal delivery with interventions? Has there been an episiotomy, stitches, an infection, C-section birth? I am going to do the specific C-section recovery event. I think that's on Friday. So we will discuss more about C-section recovery on Friday. But again, it's all included in this running. So that's the type of birth. Then is sleep deprivation, breastfeeding, mental wellness, your baby, your sleep. So there are so many factors. And this is not just for getting back into running. This is getting back into any type of exercise. All those factors, there's so many, what I've just listed, is what you have to think about, okay? So you can be flexible, all right? And that's what it's about. These first 12 months postnatal is being flexible and enjoying your training. So and I've not even mentioned pelvic floor and diastasis recti yet in all that, okay? So we're coming to that soon. They're just, factors what you would take in general. Then we've got to look at the body. So what do we want to look at if we want to get back into running, and what's the fastest and ideal scenario? Okay, so let's put that ideal scenario out there, and then we can change it to different levels as we go through. All right, so let's say I ran up to 35 weeks pregnant. After that, I was still walking, no pain, no pelvic pain. Second delivery, pretty much straightforward birth. No interventions, little bit of gas, popped baby out, no problems, okay, feeling pretty good. So what I focus on for the first 6 weeks is your core basics and functional exercise. So you can start this process soon, very, very soon after what we call a birth with less complications, a normal vaginal delivery. So you've been fit, you're well, you're exercising, you start on your pelvic floor core activations, you start on your glute exercises, you're starting to walk, what else was I going to mention then? And your functional exercise. And you're going to do that for the first 6 to 8 weeks to ensure your strength. You're also checking your posture, you're thinking about your nutrition. Now, how is baby in this phase? Let's say I had an angel baby with my second baby up until 6 months. All right, so she would sleep for 4 hours in the morning. She would also only wake up twice a night. I was like, oh my God, I am gonna rest. So I was starting to feel really good around that 6 to 8 week mark. I was doing all my base training, you know, breastfeeding was going really well. I didn't have any issues about breastfeeding, no mental issues, not like the first. So those, you know, breastfeeding is not going too well, etc. So all these other pressures can start to affect how well that initial recovery is. So now we're looking at around about the 9 to 10 week mark postnatal. So because I was resting, because I'd had a base start, I'd done all my corrective work, I could start increasing the intensity of my walks, pushing babies up the hill. So I was walking, so you can start, I mean, again, this is the ideal situation, increasing the intensity if everything's going well around about the 8 to 10 week mark, okay? So you can really start to push up through the hills, and you want to see how intensity is affecting you. So what we start off with through the programs, in the Birth to Fit Mum program, and through the mums who come into the studio, is starting a little bit of intensity work at a time. And that's a good way to manage tiredness, breastfeeding, and I say to always be aware of it over the next couple of days when we start to add that interval training in. And this may only be for 2 to 3 minutes, you know, pushing up a hill, you know, maybe when you go out for a walk, you do 1 5-minute interval, pushing up a hill, rest, and then the next hill. So you've got 2 5-minute intervals. And this is how we start with the 12-week program, which is the 0 to 45-minute running in 12 weeks, which is included in your Birth to Fit Mum program, and that's all periodized for you. All right, so then once we've started adding the intensity into your walks around that 13, 14 week mark, we know 3 months postnatal that the pelvic floor muscles, your tissues, your ligaments, everything is starting to get stronger. Joints are, you know, your body, if you ever notice, you know, around the 12-week mark, all of a sudden your bras fit better. And it's not just because your boobs, you know, have settled down and you've still got as much milk there. It's because your rib cage, everything has started to come back to where it was. Remember in pregnancy, everything stretches out, you know, your hips get wider to adapt to the pregnancy. So it's normally around as well, and I saw this with each of my pregnancies, that around the 12-week mark, I was like, oh, I'm back to a 34 around the back. And it was just like that. And so we're starting to see those shape changes. So we know from recent studies that the 3-month mark is when you can start to think about running again. But even saying that, if you're 3 months postpartum now and not done any base core work, you really don't want to go in and start running, okay? You need to have your base back. We need to gradually build you up, not just in terms of intensity and starting to run, but your rehabilitation work as well, to make sure your body is strong enough, so your core is strong enough, so your glutes are strong enough, so they're able to support you correctly when you're running. We see injuries with females all the time from running. Tight IT bands, knees, hips, and a lot of these are from glute and core weaknesses. So that is increased now in this postnatal stage. So that's in an ideal situation. 12 weeks postpartum goes really quick as well. All right, don't be thinking of it as 3 months. If somebody had an injury to me, a triathlete had an injury to me, or they'd been off training for 4 or 5 weeks, I would never start them back were they finished on that program. We would always go back and use the double up, right? So say you stop running at 35 weeks pregnant, you're now 2 weeks post, you gave birth at 41 weeks, so what's that, 6, 7, 8? Okay, double it, 16 weeks. That's what we need to look at. And I always say that, and it's the same with getting sick as well. So you must think about that time to recover. So there you go again, that's your 8 to 12 weeks of basic rehab, core strength training, pelvic floor issues, and then you can start your run training. So that's how we really need to think about things, not at 6 weeks when your doctor says, yeah, you're okay, good to go, to start on the run program that you were doing even in pregnancy or pre-pregnancy. All right, so the other factors when we're concerned about your running is pelvic floor and diastasis recti. You need to ensure you have good functional core support when starting your run program, because you actually need to run with good posture, good strength, so that your pelvic floor muscles can also do the job. Now, what I suggest is to any athletes, and when they're starting off, is if you want to get back into running, you do, whenever you start 6 to 8 weeks of the Birth to Fit Mum program, you start with the running program, and then you see your women's health physiotherapist to check everything. That's if you've had no symptoms or anything. It's such a good check to go and get an internal check to see exactly where you are before your impact training begins. Now, if you have had any pelvic floor muscle issues, so we've had the leak in, we may have a possible prolapse, then it's going to take much longer for your recovery, okay? Just because you're leaking post-birth doesn't mean that you're never going to be able to run again, okay? We can help you with the exercises, management, working through to get you back up to running leak-free. When I had my first birth, it was a shocking delivery, a lot of damage to my pelvic floor muscles, which would never been able to get back to 100%. It's not going to happen, but I can work with it. I know what to do. I'm strengthening the muscle, everything that's still attached, and I can run. If I wanted to go and run, I'm not running anymore, but I could run. I taught myself to run leak-free, no worries, and I can bounce on the trampoline, etc., because I've put different strategies in place. So we need to ensure that when women start running, that there are no leaking issues, that there's no minimal chances of prolapsing in 3 to 6 months. So that's what we do by building and trying to ensure that first checkup page, that first rehab section. So in terms of nutrition, what can you do to help rebuild your core, strengthen your fibers, because that's what you want. We need to strengthen all the fibers that have been stretched, your core and your pelvic floor muscles, they've lost that tone, what they had pre-pregnancy, and we need to bring that back. So we need to make sure that you're eating enough protein, because protein is your cellular repair and building blocks. All right, we also need to, there's a lot of mums now going for can't think of it, it's just gone out of my mind. I always go to say colostrum, and that's not it, because that's your breast milk. We will come back to that. Hydration. All right, rest. I'll try and fit in rest and recovery and why that's so important to see adaptation. at the end of this, but I really want to come up to your exercises, because your exercises for running and high intensity impact exercises is different compared to those who just want to get back to walking and non-impact exercises. You actually have to train impact in that sort of 3 to 6 month zone before you go back training and into the gyms and into that high intensity interval training. So that's what we do as well, and that's what's also included in the Birth to Fit Mum program. So let me just give you an idea of that. So as a runner, when you're running or doing any high impact, we need to make sure we've got a lot of control. So postnatal, everything's quite soft. We've actually lost a lot of muscle tone. Progesterone, you know, oh, that flat, I laugh and joke with my clients, you know, flat butt syndrome. We have glutes in our pregnancy, and then all of a sudden, even though we're still training them, they go flat. We lose that muscle, and we need to really make sure that we're increasing that. Okay, so this would be kind of included maybe after 6 or 7 weeks of following the basic Birth to Fit mode. And we start to do front loading and step out loading exercises to start to retrain the core system to adapt and cope when running outside. So if you find just in a basic hip hitch, we used to do these a lot with athletes, your one leg knee bends, you know, how low can you get to at the moment without dropping your hip out? Can you hop without leaking? Can you hop without doing this? Okay, so it's about that control and building strength. And there's lots of exercises you can incorporate into that. I like to actually say into the 4 to 5 months postnatal period to prepare you for running. And if you do all that, there's absolutely no reason why you can't get back. In saying this, I'm going to talk about your rest and recovery now. You know, into your 5 and 10K run races. I think they're probably the best goals for you to set if you want to set goals in the first 12 months postpartum, and not your half marathons, your marathons, your Ironmans, etc., because they can tend to push you over the limit and may not be achievable. And the first 12 months is really hard mentally on a mum anyway, but to not reach perhaps goals that weren't achievable can make things a lot harder. So what I say with goal setting, and I mentioned this last week as well, you need to be flexible with your goals. And one of the main reasons for that, I'm just going to bring my ball back, is because of the adaptation, and we need rest. So when our exercise levels start to increase above that 75%. So when we're training, we're going out for walks, even when we're speed walking, generally it's around about 70% aerobic. Unless we're pushing up a hill, which I said is a really good point to start to increase that intensity to prepare you for the challenges of running, you can get it up to 80%. I do stir runs with new mums to start to increase interval training. But once you start to get above 80%, and generally that's where we're going to start to feel that we're running at, because it is going to feel a lot harder. We need more recovery. And when do we recover from our exercise? When we're asleep and when we're resting. Now they believe that the time our body regenerates its cells, recovers and adapts is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning. Now who is a new mum asleep at those times? All right, now some of us will be, but your sleep is really, really important. So again, you need to think about this. You might just be able to, you know, 15, 16 weeks postpartum, manage one run session, interval session a week without getting too tired and without it affecting anything else. If you take it up to 2 or 3, your tiredness may start to decrease. Things may start to change with your feeding, Baby comes more fussy, starts waking up more through the night, and then we're in this circle. And once we get in this postnatal depleted circle, it is so damn hard to get out of it. Really hard. And I can say that from experience. You know, I ran a half marathon. That was my goal with my first one. We had no family support. It wasn't until the second baby, because, you know, things start to happen quite quickly, that I'd realized that I'd pushed myself way too hard. And again, I'm always experimenting on myself for you guys, so you guys don't make the same mistakes. Second baby, I took things a lot easier, took off the pressure, got back into things very, very quickly because I had a good baby. Baby was sleeping, I was sleeping. It was 5 months postnatal, I was back into getting into CrossFit, I was running, bloody pregnant again. You know, so it's like, and I was just like, oh, so we get into these, you've got to be careful with your first. You can recover quicker from your first because you're looking after one. But if you start to put too much pressure on yourself, do things too quickly, not realize your fatigue, it's probably on the second and third pregnancies that you will start to get into that depleted state. Because again, when you're pushing yourself, when we're postnatal, you're breastfeeding, you're not sleeping, and you're increasing your exercise, maybe even trying to think about getting ready for another pregnancy, your body cannot build its nutrition stores. You know, when we have our first pregnancy, let's say we've got an oversupply, you know, of good nutrition, we're probably at the best nutrition levels of our lives, then that pregnancy takes its toll. You know, baby gets everything, mum doesn't. Breastfeeding, sleep deprivation, all right? So maybe around 12 months postnatal of your first baby, you can start to bring things back up, but then you want to get pregnant again. And it starts to go like this. So it's very, very hard to get back up to those nutrition levels in a long time. So we can get back, absolutely, we can get back to running, we can do things, but we just need to think about so many more factors when we're doing that high intensity training. And we've also got to look about what high intensity training does happens to our hormones. You know, with F45 CrossFit, every time you do those sessions, it's 90% effort all the time. Even somebody who's in their 20s, who's not had a baby, needs to have a very, very good recovery system to be able to recover and adapt from 4 high intensity sessions a week. As a triathlete, when I was training 14 hours a week, we would still really only have 2 speed and strength sessions a week to guarantee recovery and adaptation, okay? Because too much high intensity really starts to play problems with your adrenals, again, postnatal fatigue, adrenal fatigue, and we're going on that downward scope. Now, someone asked, we do need to be asked about prolapse, and we can start to discuss prolapse and running, but hopefully what we've just gone through sort of covers all that. Okay, we need to go through all the stages and the tick off list if you want to start running and the high intensity impact training. For prolapse, it depends what stage of prolapse you have, what type of prolapse, you know, it's all different measures. We can look at different things. There's a lot of girls now, women on the CrossFit using pessaries, which can really help. They are not widely available or used in New Zealand yet. They're more so in Australia, but you can use it. And there's women having really good feedback from using these. So again, but it's working with your women's health physiotherapist. We've got some great women's health physiotherapists here in New Zealand. There's local ones who I love to work with and recommend all the time. On our website, we have got a directory of other health physiotherapists around the world. But again, if this sort of activity is for you, during your pregnancy, find out and search out for your local women's health physiotherapist who can check you internally, who can do the scans to show you how your pelvic floor and transverse are activating. And if you can work with someone like that, someone like myself, and follow the programs, then you're going to be in the best and safest hands to get back into any sport that you want, hopefully. All right, so if you have any questions about today, please let me know. Remember, included in the Birth to Fit Mum program is not only your basic pelvic floor programs, the main program to heal your diastasis, functional strength, get you back to any exercise, is also the run programs, which goes through all your run exercises to prepare your body better for running and high intensity and interval training. And then you have your specific 12-week program, which is something I used to set out the triathletes, you know, from starting, who wanted to compete in Ironman, in half Ironman, and the marathon. So it builds you up gradually. But again, what I've said to everybody, it's being flexible with your goals. We need to see postpartum, initial postpartum, as the first 12 months. And that's how mums need to look at it, which I know is super hard when you've been pregnant for 9 months and maybe not doing the sports that you love. But if we can work with it, do exercises that you enjoy, you're always heading towards your goal. It's going to help you both mentally and physically. Let me know, guys, if you have any questions about anything today. I'm conscious of the time for you. We've been on for 30 minutes now, and we're trying to keep all these events to that 30-minute time limit. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, during the entire lockdowns event series, we have a massive 30% discount off all our Fit Mum programs. Use the coupon code LOCKDOWN. Visit the website pregnancyexercise.co.nz to use that, and please share with your friends and family. And again, if you think about anything for your running or what you want to do and specific goals, let me know, drop me a line, and I love to chat to everybody. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Please make sure you like and comment, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great day, everybody.